Every empire that ever went to war believed the cost would be worth it. Almost all of them were wrong, not because they lost battles, but because they survived them. When most people hear the name Sun Tzu, they picture generals, war rooms, and motivational quotes pasted onto Instagram by people who've never opened the book. They think the art of war is about domination, aggression, winning at any cost. That version of Sun Tzu is comfortable. It's also completely wrong. Because when you strip away the mythology, something far more unsettling appears. Sun Tzu wasn't obsessed with winning battles. He was obsessed with avoiding expensive ones. To understand Sun Tzu's real genius, you have to understand the world he lived in. This wasn't a golden age of stable empires, it was a fractured landscape. China, during the late spring and autumn period and the early warring states era, was divided into rival kingdoms, each convinced it could dominate the rest. And each one was quietly destroying itself trying. War wasn't occasional. It was constant. Armies kept growing larger. Weapons became more expensive. Supply chains stretched farther with every campaign. What once looked like symbolic conflicts between elites turned into mass mobilizations. Farmers became soldiers, craftsmen stopped producing tools and started forging weapons. Tax collectors pushed harder because the treasury was always empty. Every campaign required food, metal, labor, horses, transport. Sending an army into the field wasn't just a military decision. It was a loan taken against the future, and most rulers had no idea what the interest rate was. This wasn't a war problem, it was a cash flow problem. In popular imagination, ancient warfare looks heroic. Swords, tactics, bravery. In reality, it was a logistical nightmare. The moment an army moved, the meter started running. Feed the soldiers, transport grain, replace broken weapons. Pay laborers who weren't farming anymore. A few months of fighting could drain a small state. A year could cripple a powerful one, and yet they kept fighting. Not because it made sense, but because no one knew how to stop. This wasn't just war, it was an economic stress test. And most states were failing it. Most kingdoms were already broke before the battle even began. Sun Tzu didn't enter this world as a dreamy philosopher, he entered it as a problem solver. While other thinkers focused on honor, courage, and dominance, Sun Tzu focused on something far less romantic. The math. He noticed something most rulers refused to see. States weren't being destroyed by their enemies. They were destroying themselves, overspending, overextending, dragging wars far past the point of usefulness. This is why the opening line of The Art of War is so often misunderstood. Sun Tzu writes that war is of vital importance to the state, not glorious, not noble. Vital meaning dangerous, destabilizing, and capable of killing the nation it's meant to protect. From the very first page, his goal is clear: keep war controlled, limited, and above all, cheap. Sun Tzu wasn't teaching rulers how to fight harder. He was teaching them how to stop bleeding money. Imagine a ruler standing over a map, not thinking about victory, thinking about numbers. Every road on that map represents grain that must be moved. Every city represents labor pulled away from production. Every delay adds another line to the expense column. The army hasn't lost a battle yet, but the treasury is already shrinking, taxes rise, farm output drops. Families feel pressure long before soldiers feel defeat. The war looks successful until suddenly it isn't, not because the enemy wins, but because the state can no longer afford to continue. Sun Tzu understood this before anyone else put it into words. Battles don't bankrupt nations. Duration does. This is why his most famous line isn't philosophical at all. The greatest victory is winning without fighting. That's not poetry. That's capital preservation, no destroyed equipment, no lost workforce, no shattered tax base. Victory without battle meant survival after victory. In Sun Tzu's world, a fast war was cheaper than a heroic one. This logic explains Sun Tzu's obsession with intelligence. Spies weren't dramatic, they were efficient. A single piece of accurate information could save years of conflict. One correct decision could prevent an entire army from marching in the wrong direction. Foreknowledge wasn't mysticism, it was early analytics. Bad information led to bad decisions wasted capital. Sun Tzu understood something modern leaders still forget. Logistics don't support strategy, logistics are strategy. Information wasn't power, it was cost control. At its core, The Art of War is a book about opportunity cost. Every battle eliminates cheaper alternatives. Every month of fighting closes doors diplomacy might have kept open. Sun Tzu didn't oppose war, he opposed waste. Because once a state treats war like passion instead of liability, it starts a countdown, not to defeat, but to default. History proved Sun Tzu right over and over again. Empires didn't fall because they lacked soldiers. They fell because their economic engines collapsed. Vietnam, Afghanistan, World War I, these weren't just military failures. They were accounting failures. Today, power looks different, but the logic is the same. Cyber operations, sanctions, economic pressure, maximum impact, minimal cost. Sun Tzu would recognize it instantly. Sun Tzu wasn't teaching leaders how to win wars. He was teaching them how to avoid national bankruptcy. He understood that the cost of conflict always outlives the conflict itself. States don't collapse when they lose battles. They collapse when they drain the capital that holds them together. Victory means nothing if the treasury is empty afterward. In Sun Tzu's world, the wisest ruler wasn't the conqueror, it was the steward. Strength isn't measured by how hard you strike, but by how much you can afford to strike. History doesn't repeat, but the bill always comes due. If this changed how you see power, money, and war, subscribe. This is Empire Ledger, and history has more to reveal.